SGC here, and we're back with a movie review. Police Story Lockdown. Directed by Ding Shen. This stars, of course, Jackie Chan, Liu Ye, and Jing Tian. So what's this movie about? Well, basically, it's about Jackie Chan playing... Now, this is the difference between this and all other police stories, is that, similarly, this police story, Lockdown, and the 2013 new police story is a standalone type of story, narrative thing. Unlike Police Story 1 to 4, which was connected, and it was the same characters, these last two recent ones have been standalone, and they have been a lot more dark in terms of narrative. And just like the 2013 one, this one actually deals a bit, slightly not as dark, but it's not as comedy-filled storyline for sure. And the biggest difference here is that Jackie Chan isn't playing a Hong Kong cop, because this production was a China production, so he has to play a Chinese mainland police officer. So he goes to Shanghai, Jackie Chan, he looks for his daughter, and somehow he finds her in a club, and then things are locked down. Because clearly the boyfriend of his daughter isn't what he seems to be, and things just don't go right. So what did I think? Well, first off, I actually enjoyed the narrative. It was a interesting storyline about an old cop who sort of really reflects what Jackie Chan is now. Because, I mean, he filmed this and said, this is probably my last action film. He lied, he made Dragon Blade and Skip Trace coming out this, like, December. So, but then when I watched this, I was like, whoa, so this is gonna be his sort of last film. And it really reflects that, because he is a super cop in the beginning of the film, and something happens, and he's all like, oh, I'm gonna, take it slow nowadays. And throughout the narrative, there's some things that holds him back to be relentless of Fist of Fury. Like, you want to know why, but then at the same time it reflects how he's old and stuff, and they really play on the old card here, which is really sort of similar to what they did with Arnold Schwarzenegger's, like, sheriff film, The Last Stand. Because clearly in that film, he plays an old guy and he needs other people to help him. But clearly here, Jackie Chan does not need help. But he struggles. And definitely when there's a character development about his background and all that stuff, his family stuff, it's interesting for sure. Now, in terms of Jing Tian, if you don't know her, she's in a few recent films. She's like a actress from China, sort of slowly integrating herself in the Hong Kong film industry. She's been in that Special ID with Donnie Yen, and then she's in that From Vegas to Macau with Joe Yun Fat, and now she's even in a local TV drama in Hong Kong. So there's that. But here I feel that she was just miscast. They could have cast any other China actress and it would have been fine, because she's a fighter herself. She fights, she's hands-on, so it's like, to put her into a role where she just stands there and becomes helpless is just kind of like, why not just give like another actress a chance? Now, in terms of the villain, Liu Ye, the boyfriend, so it is just a spoiler, but you see it a mile away that this guy isn't what he seems to be. But he has some pretty cool lines, and I really appreciate the vibe that he brings, and it's just like, whoa, this villain. Now, in terms of just the movie itself, I would say the fighting is sad. There are kind of cool shots, but he's playing the whole, I'm going to protect myself, I don't want to kill anyone, I don't want to fight. So, the director really doesn't do much. So it's the quick cuts that Hollywood's been doing, so using Jackie Chan in quick cuts is just so sad, and it's hard to watch if you notice these things. And if you don't, you probably think, oh, it's not that bad. But it's bad when you use quick cuts with Jackie Chan. So, that's the sad part. It's just that the action is not there. It's not like New Police Story, which was a Hong Kong production, and that was more intense. The action was more fast-paced. But I do like the narrative. That's like sort of the saving grace for me in this movie, is that it's sort of a reflection of his life. He's going like slowly phasing himself out, but he lied again. But my current mindset when I watched it. So that was cool. In terms of like the actual storyline where it went, it was interesting as there was a twist, and it's just like, oh, didn't see that coming. And if you have seen a lot of China production films, there is set of code of stuff in terms of narratives that they have to fulfill. And if you know that code, you won't feel as thrilled, I would say, in this film. But if you don't, you might look like, whoa, never saw that coming. But all in all, this is a old cop being an old cop and then gotta fight to get out of here sort of thing. Largely, I wish they didn't tack on Police Story, because you know, Police Story, there's sort of like a expectation of Police Story has these things to be a police story, because it's such a big franchise now of like 5 films. And I feel that if they didn't put Police Story here and just sold it as Lockdown, it would have done better, but then at the same time the marketing would have sucked and no one would have watched it. But I feel that if you somehow found Lockdown and watched it, you appreciate it more than Police Story Lockdown, which is too bad. I mean, it's sort of like a, you know, double-edged sword, you know. Change the name, might receive better, but less people will actually go to see it because there's no fame and whatever. And there's not much that like really propels it forward in terms of just besides Jackie Chan, so that's just too bad. So all in all, it's an old man movie in terms of just Jackie Chan coming to gripes with his ability, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, if you have been catching the police stories, watch it, but have a different set of expectations, and I think you'll enjoy it a bit more. But all in all, it is the typical Jackie Chan thing that we have been seeing lately of just not really doing what he can be actually doing. So yeah, it's just too bad. But yeah, so anyway, if you have seen Police Story Lockdown, leave your comment down below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And that's pretty much it for this movie review for Police Story Lockdown. Out!